at the conference, it was announced that you were actually stepping down, unfortunately, and I was moving into your role as vice chair of HETMA.
So for you, Troy, what is it? Is it congratulations or condolences?
I think maybe a little bit of both, right?
You're listening to the AV-IT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro-AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again to the AV-IT Amplifier. As always, my name is Ryan Gray, and I'll be your host today, and you are getting the Monday morning smooth jazz sounds of the first thing I'm doing this week. Always a little quieter, you can tell, in the morning, but this is fun because, and I don't think this has ever happened before, where we have a guest in back-to-back episodes. So we get to welcome, we got to talk with Troy Powers a little bit, looking back at ISE, looking forward at the time to the HETMA conference. And now here we are post-HETMA conference. And there was a big announcement made at this conference regarding Troy. So Troy, would you please remind everybody who you are, what you do, and what was this announcement that was made about you last week?
So Troy Powers, I am the AV support lead, so I manage the support team at Northwestern University for Central IT. And I was formerly the 2-year at-large board member at HETMA, and at the conference, it was announced that you were actually stepping down, unfortunately, and I was moving into your role as vice chair of HETMA.
So that's awesome. So when it was announced that I was going to be vice chair, one of the things that came up a lot was, so am I supposed to say congratulations or condolences? So for you, Troy, what is it? Is it congratulations or condolences?
I think maybe a little bit of both, right? I think I've been on the board or a chair for HETMA for a long time, so I know the amount of work that goes into doing what we've done. So I can definitely sympathize with that. I know like your role has been kind of ever changing at Yavapai, and you've taken on a lot more responsibility than a lot of us regular tech managers out here have. So I get why you might need to step back a little bit and kind of adjust that role. So.
Well, so let me follow up with you on two fronts there. So let's start, kind of with how you look at that. So, you've been highly involved with HETMA a long time, and not just HETMA, but other things around the industry. So working through balancing, the main gig and the side gig, or how do you take care of Northwestern and these wider participations? I know that's a question that a lot of people are afraid of when they see opportunities in HETMA or they see opportunities for volunteer and wonder, like, how can those things look exciting, those things look fulfilling, but I'm afraid I won't be able to do both. So how do you look at balancing time, managing time? And I'm going to take notes because I need some help on this front for sure.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm an empty nester, kind of newly an empty nester, and I think that's honestly the difference, right? My daughter had a lot of medical issues going into COVID, and right before COVID started, she had a surgery that kind of made most of her problems manageable. And all of the time that I spent in hospitals, at doctor's appointments and things with her, was just free time now. And that's when HETMA kind of showed up in my life, right? So it just kind of worked out. It was kind of a perfect storm for me. I just was able to replace hospital visits with time spent doing HETMA things, which was much more pleasant, right? So, I don't know that I have really any insight to offer people who didn't have all of their time consumed with something else, and just went right into consuming it with a new thing, right? I think in terms of just kind of balancing it now and balancing it between like what's good for Northwestern is, Northwestern, my job is I obviously need to be available, and kind of able to jump on, high end issues kind of at any moment. My proximity to campus makes that really easy because I live, essentially on campus, right? I can see the university's Wi-Fi, on my, I can't really connect to it, but I can see it.
We got to put in a ticket about that so that somebody can get that extended out to you.
That's right. That's right. So I'm basically on campus, so it makes it really easy to respond to emergencies really quick, kind of at any hour. So, if I need to do something after hours, just because classes are busy, I don't really mind doing that. And that frees me up to do some of these meetings during the day at HETMA and kind of just play with that time a little bit, I think at the end of the day, Northwestern always gets, what they are owed from me, and probably a little bit more than they're owed. And also, I think just in general, Northwestern is really supportive of this type of work by their staff, right? They, support people being out in the wider industry, doing talks at conferences, supporting different initiatives, because it gets our name out there. That's kind of what Northwestern as a whole, like we're a research university, and they support their staff doing that type of, research kind of as well. So,
yeah, that's so a couple things to unpack there where you talked about, and I have kind of a similar story to it where you have like a block of time that changes, you know what I'm saying? And instead of, there's people, you live by default or you live by design. So to say like, okay, as one thing rolls off, I can now occupy that in another way. And so like it's so awesome to hear both there to be a medical thing that like resolved a bunch for someone who also has, I don't know whether it's pseudo official or an actual official title with HETMA. You know what I'm saying? So what is Brooke's title with us again?
She is the director of badge scanning operations. Yeah,
right.
It's not written in the bylaws or anything, right? She's getting her own official badge, I guess. So that's
exactly. So I think, well,
her resume. So hey.
You're vice chair now. I think you can do, you know what I'm saying? I think you can make that official if you want to. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
You never know the powers. But yeah, so anyone who has been around our booth at Infocom has met our director of badge scanning operations, Brooke. That's awesome. But for me, it was kind of similar. When I was at YC, I did my master's degree for a while, and as that rolled off, my wife and I, we were talking about like we'd moved, we were part of the community, so I ended up serving on a governing board, like the school board here. And then as that came to a close, like that's when the ability to say, okay, now in HETMA are there things I'm going to roll that up, and to kind of do that as something that's intentional, you know what I'm saying, and think of it as a time budget. Just like you have a money budget, we have time budgets, and yeah. And then certainly being an empty nester makes a difference. As my daughter got older, and same thing now is off at college, it changes what that looks like. So that's actually a really good lesson for people as they're thinking about these things, is really make a time budget, think about where time is going, and then use it how you want, which is awesome. And then the other thing you said in there, so I love, you're right, like proximity of living. So you can work at home, but it's not really working at home because you can be anywhere you need to be, which is awesome. But you said, Northwestern gets what they're owed and probably more than that. And I think that's something probably all of us could talk about, which is, I don't, whether it's our line of work, many lines of work, we don't necessarily do what we do because it's a transactional, this is the money I get and this is, what I do for it. We do it because it really means something to us. A lot of us could probably make more money in other parts of the industry. So what does that mean to you? Why for you is taking care of technology on a college campus something you're willing to, to, like you say, put more into it than maybe you're getting out of it? I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but why is it something you're willing to go above and beyond to do?
I mean, for me personally, like I believe in the mission of higher education, right? I think education in general is, it's panacea to all the problems we face, right? The only thing that fixes everything is learning how to fix the things.
Wait a second. Say that again.
The only way to fix everything is learning how to fix the things.
Yeah.
Right. So like,
perfect.
and yeah, obviously that's a really long-term plan, right? Like, and it's not, but that's how we get better, right? That's how things, fix themselves, is learning, new things to fix them. We're always kind of coming up with. I mean, think about pollution, right? And the way that cars were polluting, and we thought there was no way anything would stop that, right? And then somebody invented a catalytic converter and converted all those gases into much more managed. You know what I mean? So like, there's always like that kind of invention and thing that's kind of there's what's coming around the corner, right? I support that. I believe in that mission. I think I believed in it. My previous state school, which was still an R1 university, but kind of maybe on a different level, but had maybe was much more of a community school that supported a real diverse population, right? And that was a different kind of mission to support. Here in Northwestern, we're one of the top research universities in the world, like they're doing the stroke lab is curing paralysis, right, with nanotechnology, right? I'm down for that. I'm here to support that in any small way I can be involved in curing paralysis or any other thing. Like, I'm in for it, and I'm down to help. So, and then like you said, talking about where it's just not just transactional. Where I take, I wouldn't work here if they weren't paying me, right? I'm not doing this as a volunteer. But also, like, the work means something to me, right? And I will go kind of above and beyond my position and my pay to make sure things work for my faculty, because that matters to me, right? It matters to me that things work the way they're supposed to work. So
that's awesome. I think it's funny how, like, you hear that same sentiment by so many people, and people wonder why, like, we feel like a community or look like a community, but there's an emotional choice to how we operate, not just it's like I said, it's not just a job. It's not this. And we're not trying to take over the world. We're not trying to be the best. I'm not trying to, punch up sales numbers, but I'm trying to support the efforts of a larger purpose in my own way. And that's, what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like, it's funny how probably, and this is probably, probably 2 or 3 generations back, my grandparents' generation, that sort of like service to a larger goal was a pretty common thing. And now it almost seems different, where it's, how big of a yacht can you buy by the time, you retire versus, did I, whether, my name may not be attached to it, but in some little way I supported the people who, like, I could never figure out how to make nanotechnology cure paralysis,
right.
but friggin' if their projector came on so that they could do that work. So
right.
I don't know. I could have these conversations all day, because it's the same. I believe in it and that mission of it. All right, I'm monologuing because you got me all excited. See how quickly on Monday morning I turned from like, oh, it's the first thing on Monday morning, to like, the mission of making people's lives better through education is just, it's a calling. It's a thing. So turning that now from sort of how you ended up there, now you have assumed kind of a true leadership role in, dare I say, the preeminent, the most influential organization for higher ed technology managers in the industry. So how does, a twofold question, both, that part of you that has that is sort of driven a little by mission, and your technical experience and know-how actually doing the job, how are you going to use those to inform kind of what you do as vice chair and prioritizing where you think the organization should go?
Well, I think that's not. I don't think that's too difficult to do, right? Because I think as a board, I think we're pretty solid on where we want to take the organization, right? So I think we've already got a pretty solid plan in place. So it's more about just continuing to implement the plan that we kind of are put in place, and then what's kind of always happened with HETMA is kind of being a little bit agile and dealing with things as they come, because new opportunities continue to present themselves, and we need to be able to kind of adjust on the fly to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So I think, in terms of informing, like, maybe at longer term, I think we're on the right path. And I think just growing, like, the important thing now is growing what we've done so far, kind of to that global community, and not just growing it to the global community and being out there, but really taking advantage of what that means, right? Working together. Time difference is going to make this difficult, right? So it'll have to be kind of well thought out, and there will be limited times of day where things will happen. So some people might have to get up early or stay up a little late sometimes, but just doing things together, collaboration across the globe, I think is going to be the bigger steps moving forward. I think that's where we want to go, because there's so many voices out there, right? And I'm getting tired of hearing my own voice. So I really want to hear other voices from across higher ed AV. And just see other people getting involved. There's so many more leadership positions available now that we're kind of moving into a more global organization where, we're going to need people kind of running these initiatives in those places as well. So if you want to get involved, come get involved. We want to hear your voice.
I love that. You're right. Tired of hearing. I never get tired of hearing my own voice, but I'm sure other people are. But what a vision of opportunity, because, like you said, it's when you talk about HETMA's going global, and it has this like the same thing, like this idea of like like a multinational conglomerate, but HETMA's a grassroots organization. When we say global, I love that, which is there are other voices. There are leaders out there. There are people that aren't connected the way we are here. There are people that, and the opportunity is to like extend that into other areas. And then and the word you use there is collaboration. And it's a, there's more people to collaborate with out there. And that word gets used a ton for a lot of different things. What an amazing buzzword. Like, collaboration can mean you agreeing with me, or it can mean truly whatever. So when you think, what does, in terms of how HETMA works and looking at, finding new people and bringing new voices in, when you use the word collaboration, what does that mean to you as you vision what that looks like for HETMA?
So I think, in terms of like maybe the biggest thing, I think next year, I really would like to shoot for having a 24-hour HETMA conference where we start it in the EU, and we just kind of go all day there, and their happy hour just kind of rolls right into our morning coffee. And then we go from there. So, I don't know how that would work in terms of 3 days. So would it really be a 72-hour conference? So we'd have to kind of figure out all those logistics, and things like that. But I think that's a really great idea. Just maybe, I think this year showed once again that maybe the most valuable sessions, the most valuable part of our conference is those morning coffees, those happy hours, those network lunches, and those 30-minute breaks in between sessions where people are just kind of talking. I think just having that collaboration in the mornings and the evenings each day would be pretty great. Just having those conversations about, and then, maybe we have the same sessions, right? But, European panelists and American panelists, right? And we kind of switch that up. And then you could go, back later and watch the alternate version and kind of see where the differences are, where things, and then maybe, a few weeks later, maybe we'll have another panel that'll be, some Americans and some Europeans kind of hashing that out and discussing the differences, right? I think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration there. And then, just in conversations with people over at ISC, Eunice is looking to maybe get some panelists from HETMA, and vice versa. And like I said, that's a little bit tough to kind of logistically work through because time differences. But I'm sure there are people willing to potentially stay up late or get up a little early, kind of thing, to make that happen. I know I am, so I think that's kind of, in terms of collaboration, that's what I see, in the short term. And I mean, like HETMA, here in North America, we've always been supportive of all the other organizations. We support every regional group, at all their conferences. We're a sponsor. With ETC, we're a sponsor. And I think that's what I'd like to see moving forward. When an LTSMG or a SCOMS have an event, I want to see HETMA on the sponsor list. When Eunice has an event, I want to see HETMA on the sponsor list. And I don't know all the other higher ed organizations out there right now. I want to find them out, so we can there, like because we are, the community that supports higher ed, and I want to do that in all ways, right, and in every way that we can.
I love that's such a great answer because it's truly like and this is so weird, but it's like a deconstructed version of what that looks like in like a corporate way, or even from a conference standpoint. So if people say we're having a global conference, what they usually mean is this thing is so important, people from across the globe will travel here to all do the same thing. And as HETMA's talking about, as we grow global, we remain or we grow local. It's no. We don't have to do the same thing. We don't have to. We are going to meet people where they are on the time scale. We are going to do make that be something that's comfortable. I remember the COVID era Crestron Masters that was going to be in person and got canceled, and they eventually put it online, and they did a very similar thing, which is it ran US and European time. But if you're registered, you could do both. And I remember that year, I just dove in, I committed, I caffeinated up and did the programming track and the architect track at the same time. And what a fulfilling thing it was. It was exhausting, but when we're in person at an Infocom or something like that, we don't go to hang, like we go to work, we go to do something. Those are 16, 18-hour days when we're doing that anyway. So bringing that, and also that idea, you're totally right. So I had a person when we were at one of the morning coffees, and they send the little private chat on the thing, and they're like, when does this actually start? I was hoping to talk some tech, you know what I'm saying? Not just what's going on with people. And so I reminded them, like, here's the schedule of the thing. The first session starts at this time. But if you were sitting at breakfast at an in-person conference, you wouldn't be looking around at the people at your table going, why are we talking about our day or what's going on? Why are we, relating to each other as humans? That's exactly what you would do. And so people, I think, are used to this, like, an online conference is all business. And we've maintained a little that idea that one of the main things you get out of conferences is the connections and the understanding and the relationships. And that is a high priority, and something that as it expands, that throughput of what HETMA has the ability to, to be maintained as we go, like you said, around the clock.
Absolutely.
So are you going to be the first one to accomplish the 72-hour straight Zoom session?
I think, am I going to be in the Zoom session for 72 hours? I don't think so. We'll see. We'll see. If anybody is capable of doing that, it's Joe Way. It's not me.
Yeah, well, I think for anybody that doesn't become a pretty picture by the end of it. But my thought is this, like, you don't have to stay awake for it all, but you got to leave your camera on so we can watch you snooze through those parts of it or something like that. I don't know.
We all know how I feel about sleeping in cabs, so I don't really have to fall asleep in my chair too. So,
but I know when I ask some of those questions, you answer like, oh, well, it's pretty simple. We got a pretty straightforward thing, but I tell you that articulation of what that could look like is no one else is doing things like that. No one else is saying we are going to expand but remain personal. We're going to whatever, like, we are going to continue to go to people rather than make people come to us, kind of that, which is awesome. Okay. So then turning from what you're excited about in taking on this role, in the congratulations or condolences, thinking about being the vice chair, what concerns do you have about it? Or what are the things now as you think about this is what it means to do that? Are you thinking, and I'm setting you up here a little bit, so you know what I'm saying? You're allowed to name names if you're like, I'm not worried about anything but this particular person. No, I wouldn't do that if I were you. But what are the things that now when you look at it, you think, okay, I may need to dial in on something, or this might be something that I'm concerned about going forward?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I think, right now, I don't think there's, I think a big concern I think that we've had is we've just had some people in the chair positions that they don't stay for the whole term, right? So I think that's one of those things And I think we know some of why that is because, like, I think at the end of the day, the vice chair, and this might be one of the fears, right, of the vice chair about taking this position versus others. This is probably the only role that this one in the chair position that has any real responsibilities actually tied to it, right? The chair positions all have some responsibilities, but other than a few things that they kind of do, they're pretty open and vague, and we haven't really put parameters on anything because we're kind of learning as we go a little bit, right? And that's just one of those things where we've made some attempts to kind of do that, and it hasn't really happened that well yet. So I think people come on expecting one thing and then a ton of other things. Oh man, there's all this other stuff to do too, and they don't realize really how involved the role is going to be before they're in it. And it's too much for them, and they just don't have the time, right, to the job. So I think that's something we have to look at and kind of figure out, make sure that people understand what the role kind of fully entails. And then if that's too much and we can't get people to do that, then we need to think about, okay, well, is this role really two roles, right? Or can we split some of this off onto this other role that maybe doesn't quite have as much going on? Does that make sense? There's things that we can do to make that work. I think in terms of problems, I think that's the big one for us. I think, and just maturing our programs, right? We've got a lot of programs that have been pretty successful, but being consistent on deliverables and things like that, that's where we've struggled in the past. So I think just getting things kind of tightened down, getting workflows in place so everybody knows where everybody's supposed to be. I think that's kind of the trouble that we need to work on here over the next couple of years.
I love it. But so again, talking about here's something I worry about, but it's all phrased as opportunity, not, you know what I'm saying, not concern. And yeah, like those things are challenges for volunteer organizations, I think, pretty ubiquitously, right? And but having an eye on it, how do we make these opportunities sustainable and rewarding? How do we expand the number of people who want to be involved and as you said, kind of mature as an organization at the same time? As we go around the globe, we're not saying we got it all figured out. You need to do it our way. You know what I'm saying? We've got our own challenges as a volunteer org, but that's, I love, one of the things about you, Troy, is you're just relentlessly positive about so many things, and it's very easy to face challenges and feel like they're big. And almost every time there's two things you do, which is you speak about things as opportunity, right? And with the idea of, when we figure this out, imagine what this is going to be like. And you almost never say I. You almost always say we. And I don't know if that anybody's ever pointed that out, but every one of these questions I've asked as a singular, and you always reply in the plural. And there's just simply a mindset to that I think is awesome for the leader of a volunteer collaborative organization. So I'm very excited about this. I think, congratulations on the choice, condolences on the things that you haven't yet, haven't yet come, that we don't, the known unknowns, right? We know there are chaoses coming down the line, but approaching it from those two standpoints of what is the opportunity rather than the problem, and how do we tackle it rather than how I tackle it. I don't think we could ask for any more than that. So that's awesome. Congratulations on that. So before we wrap up, what is the one thing, if you could snap your fingers right now and make HETMA have one thing or one something, what would that be?
Oh, unlimited money, right?
There you go.
That's easy, right? I don't know. That seems like a cheap answer. I think, I don't know. I think honestly, we're in a pretty good place. I don't know that there's any, outside of those kind of, unlimited money kind of wishes that I think, more engagement, right? The engagement can always be better. So I think that would be maybe the big wish then. more engagement from the community. Like I said earlier, voices, right? New voices. I want new voices. We've got the media company, Higher Ed AV. You want to write something, you want to write a column every month, you want to write something about a rant that happened, you want to do a podcast. Like, we've got all of this stuff available for people. I want new voices, whether those are voices from North America, Asia, Europe, like wherever it's from. Like, I want new voices. That's the big problem, I think, is that we don't have enough voices in Higher Ed AV.
That's awesome. What a great answer. So if people are out there and they want to get involved, get connected with you, follow what you're doing, or get involved in HETMA, how would they do that?
So the community, hetma.org, you can always reach me there. Vice chair at hetma.org is the new email. We're in the process of transitioning that, so you can get me there. LinkedIn, troy.powers at northwestern.edu is my work email. So reach out to me any way you want to.
All right. Everybody reach out to Troy and definitely follow him. And same thing, if you're not in the HETMA community, remember it's free and always will be. Go to hetma.org, sign up there, and get involved in the conversation. Troy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the AV IT Amplifier. Tune in next week for more with today's guest. It'll be great, or your money back. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by HigherEdAV.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.